Yeah, Blade Runner.
Yeah, so
Blade
yeah,
Runner.
no spoilers.
2049.
So what did you think of it?
I thought the movie was great.
I've heard
It was
mostly
a good movie.
I've heard mostly good things.
Yeah, I really dug it. I tried to keep expectations really low, you know?
Yeah.
Good life rule.
But, yeah.
And
The
but the soundtrack was not.
I even try to keep an open mind for it, but man, was I disappointed with it. That sucks you haven't seen it, because I wanted to discuss, like, certain parts, and I thought maybe you would
Well, to be
echo
fair,
my thoughts, but...
our listeners may not have seen it as well.
I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
I watched the original again last week because Heather had
That's all you
seen it,
need
and
to
I was
see.
like, oh, God, we got to correct this.
It's just so typical, like, Zimmer. There's parts where it's, like, high action, and, like, all of a sudden the music is just deafening. It's just like, brrr, you know, it's like these...
Yeah.
It's
The hits, the big orchestral hits.
It's not even orchestral hits. It's this weird, like, hyper saw that just blasts.
geez.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's like this big detuned saw sound that's just deafening. And it's just like, really? There's a few moments where it gets almost like travel percussive, and it sounds cool. And I'm like, okay, I bet you this is the direction that Johan was going to go, you know? But then, like, every time it's an action moment, it like takes you away from the action because it's just so loud and just kind of shitty sounding.
Yeah.
Like, it does not sound like a Blade Runner soundtrack should sound. It sounds like your typical, like, wannabe action movie soundtrack every time the stuff starts to get, like, tense and action-y.
Yeah.
And that just, I feel like that really ruined those moments for me.
Did you see the director talked about it and why?
No.
Yeah, they said it was Johan's choice, basically. But the director requested a soundtrack that was closer to the original sound, and apparently Johan wasn't providing that. And he was like, "Oh well, I'm kind of taking myself off of this," and they went to Hans Zimmer to get a sound closer to the original.
Well,
Blade Runner.
I don't know. I don't feel like he achieved that at all.
Right,
Like,
that's what I heard. I've heard
not
that
at
it
all.
wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple moments where it's ambient, like where he's hanging out in his apartment and stuff like that, and you'll hear some, like, you know, CS80 type sounds.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
okay, that's cool. And that's the only place where there really needed to be music. You know what I mean? Is at the slower moments. The action should speak for itself, and it does in the original. You know what I mean? Anytime there's, like, action in the original Blade Runner, it's where the sound kind of stops.
Right.
You know?
There's nothing.
You
exactly.
hear like Pris, like her hands hitting the floor type of thing. Like you're hearing what's
those
going
sounds,
on.
You hear the rain, the weird
Yeah.
whooshing sound in the background,
Yeah.
you know, all that shit. Except for, like, the death of Tyrell. You know what I mean? There's like
Oh,
a swell of music there because it's like an impactful moment. Other than that, like, that doesn't fucking happen. But in this movie, yeah, it's like every time it's like, oh, guess what? This is an action part. And the music's just like, bleh. It's just like, oh, all right. It's like, thanks, Hans. I didn't know. Fuck. Oh, well.
But it's a minor complaint. I mean, didn't you ride too much from your overall enjoyment?
Honestly, at least seeing it in the IMAX on that sound system, I feel like it did ruin some of the more action moments for me. Like, it was just distractingly loud over everything else in the movie. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe
It's like you're trying to focus on the sounds happening in the movie, and then it's just like this overbearing sound, which is what a lot of people said in Interstellar and stuff too. But that movie was kind of chill to begin with, so I didn't mind the fact that you had, like, that roaring organ sound. You know, in the IMAX it was deafening, but I liked it. Not so much in Blade Runner. It was like, this needs to be scaled the fuck down. Like, take it down a notch, Hans. But
maybe that was Hans taking it down a notch.
Yeah.
As slow as he goes.
If you go up to talk to him, he's just constantly screaming at you. He has no sense of volume.
hello.
Maybe it'll be play better at home, like a home theater, where it's not going to have that crazy ass super loud system.
Sure.
It'll be a little bit more diminished.
The sound overall, I feel, was great though. You know, it sucks. There's parts where you couldn't hear it because it was just drowned out in the soundtrack shit. But yeah, overall, like, I feel like the sound work and sound design, and it was really solid. But
It's long, right? Like 3 hours.
It's 3 hours, yeah. And we went for, like, we didn't know it was that long. We went to the 10:45 showing, which didn't start until like 11.
Yeah.
And this was a weeknight.
Nice.
Yeah, and like we got out of the theater and it's 3 a.m. I'm like, what the fuck? So I did not expect that, but
So we could get into the Synthrotek mess.
oh Jesus,
It's kind of a downer.
the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not kind of a downer. It is a downer.
It just sucks too because it went from like the Muff Wiggler controversy to that, like back to back, and I was just like, what the hell is going on?
if there was a Eurorack stock market, it would have dipped a little bit like that period. Ooh.
Bottom out. The
Yeah.
Great Depression of 2017.
It was just a fantastic explosion and self-reveal of somebody's like fucked up notions of the world and bias towards things, and how you can let your company kind of be your platform for political things, which is just dumb. You
Yeah.
know, that's
Yeah.
just like it's suicide, man. Like, what do you, all because you got hyped up one day on some of your ideals that you felt were infringed upon, you use like your company's social media to promote your shittiness.
Fuck him. Fuck what he's done to his company. Fuck his videos. Fuck his self-righteous. There's a crusade against me. Blah blah blah. And
That was the most disgusting part, is that he's trying to play victim through
Right.
all of it.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the
I'm like,
worst
what?
part.
yeah,
And then that turned into like him backpedaling and being like free speech, which is, again, that's like, oh, you just, it's also free speech to criticize you, you realize. And
Yeah,
then the whole
yeah.
like, it's punk rock to say obnoxious racist shit. And then like posting on his Instagram like old bands that had like, you know, hooded like Klan members on their punk rock stickers, and how, you can talk about anything, guys.
well, you
It's
do
like,
know, like when they did that, it was typically against it.
Yeah.
They were using this horrible imagery. They were using it to contrast the opposite of that. They were saying, "Look,
Not
how
as a
shitty this-"
marketing tactic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, which is what he's doing. I mean, he had the beer koozies and the T-shirts with Baphomet on it. Or, why are you using the image of Baphomet if you're not?
Yeah.
And,
behind it?
and if
It's
he's
like-
got, if he's a Christian, fine. There wouldn't have been any problem with that. It's, I mean, at least maybe I'm speculating and speaking for myself. It's the using his energy against Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
And then just turn around and go, oh, you just don't like me because I'm Christian.
Someone that worked for him come out on Facebook and said
Yeah.
like they were kind of like forced to go to Planned Parenthood protests
Yeah.
and shit. That's incredible.
That would have been my last day there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you're getting it,
He was
man.
trying to be the whole like sheep and wolf's clothing thing. He was trying
Yeah.
to use imagery that was the opposite of what he likes. You know what I mean? To appeal to people like outside of his, ideals.
Yeah.
You know, like he even said that in one of his videos, like, oh, I'm in Portland and I infiltrated all these hippies and shit. And I'm like, what are you talking about,
Good
dude?
job.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so you're a lying, phony sack of shit. What are you so proud about? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I tricked you guys. I got you to buy my T-shirts, and I don't even believe in that shit. And I was like, okay.
And I did suffer through watching all 5 of those videos he posted.
I don't know how you made it through.
I
I watched 30 seconds of the first one.
Yeah. I had to
And I hit unsubscribe, and I was just like shaking my head. I was like, this is so cringy. He's like in this dark basement.
Yeah.
Using
It's
this
real Alex
shitty
Jones looking, too.
Dude,
Very.
yeah.
It sucks for his employees and whoever else was involved in the production of these modules, because if you look on used sites and
Yeah.
they're everywhere now. No one wants to have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got
and it's
dropped
not
from
because of
every
his
distributor.
ideals. It's because he's lying. He's just
Yeah.
flat out been lying about everything. If you want to run a Christian company, put that in the forefront. Say, this is what I stand for. This is what my
Yeah.
business is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I don't subscribe to that, but that would not have stopped me from buying his shit. Like,
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yes.
Good job, man.
The
That's-
fact that he was like, "Oh, I've been lying to you people the whole time," and
I
trying
got
to
over on you.
Play this victim card. It's
Yeah.
just like, okay, why would I want to support your
Yeah.
business?
And then follows that up with, my mom is the CEO of Nabisco. I'm a trust fund kid. I don't need money, but it's priceless watching you all freak out over this. And that's like, oh, dude, you're just like the bottom of the fucking barrel. you know?
And what is he expecting the result of that to be? I mean, is
Who
he
knows?
is he
Like-
just getting off on being a troll, or is it going to be that thing of like, ha ha ha, ha, you got us, man? We find that really endearing.
I think that's the thing, because now he's like posting like pictures of shipping crates, and it's like, oh, Monday was great. Thanks for all the orders, guys. And it's like, well, maybe your last Monday was twice as big.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
this.
There's
and
no,
again, I think
there's
we're
no
all
metrics there.
yeah, we're all becoming sensitive because of like fuckboy president, where it's like, just like the pushing of the exact opposite of what's actually happening
Yeah,
as
yeah.
news.
Putting stuff like that out is very Trumpian.
Exactly.
Yeah, like there wasn't a lot of people out for my inauguration. Here's 3,000 pictures of trying to convince you how big my fucking inauguration is. And it's just, dude, you're trying way too fucking hard. Like, no one's buying it.
And he also pulled the people in China are going to buy my shit anyway. You guys are nothing. All my sales are from China. It's just like, dude, why are you like just digging yourself a grave and like putting dirt on top of it?
Yeah. He just crawled up on the cross and no one's paying attention to him. It is a bummer because I do have his stuff. I do have Synthrotek stuff. I've built Synthrotek. We all have. We all have. And
Guess the joke's all on us.
but I'm looking at him just like, I can't have this. Like, I have to get rid of this stuff.
Dude,
It's just,
so much of his stuff appeared that day in the used section on Muffs. It was just like, boom.
I mean, I've accepted I'm going to lose money on it because, like you said, all of that stuff is now out
it's
there.
going for pennies too.
And no one
everyone's
wants
just take this shit.
Exactly. So I think I've actually thought about like just selling all of it and just donating it to Planned Parenthood.
Yeah,
like whatever anyone's
that's
willing
awesome.
And like I have his shirt, I got a bunch of stickers, I got the koozie. Basically, I'm just putting it all in a box, putting it up there.
And it's not like any of his designs were all that unique or special anyways. It's not like it's going to be hard to replace anything that he has released.
No, not at all.
The only thing that was appealing about it was a lot of it you could get DIY, and it was cost effective.
Well, it was very simple. I think that was the sequencer that was dirt simple.
Yeah.
That Echo was, you had 3 knobs. I don't know. It seems weird to start complimenting his designs. I don't think they were that bad because they were very performance friendly. That doesn't just that's not enough to keep it though. Yeah. Seeing that fucking logo just turns my stomach.
It's
now.
too small of a community. We know half the people we buy the stuff from.
Yeah.
It just feels weird to like feel shitty about using a piece of gear, which you will just because you know, like, oh, that asshole.
Right.
Where it's like anything else, it's like, oh, that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Or that guy's a weirdo, but it's he's a cool weirdo.
Yeah, which is totally acceptable.
I mean, even like his whole political standpoint and ideal side, that still doesn't excuse any of the sexist shit.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That he was doing, like, by far. Like, once he posted that stupid meme that no one got anyways, there were so many females that were coming out on the forums, like, saying, oh, this is the same dude that, like, added me on Facebook and then proceeded to like and leave creepy comments on all my selfies. Shit like that. And I'm like, ugh.
So he had an ironic meme putting a picture of a monster, and then turns out that he actually is just as creepy, or you know,
Exactly.
Again,
jokes on who?
Again, good job, man. You really got over on us. You showed us. Fuck that.
We all learned our lesson. I'm proud though at how quickly people didn't really feed the troll. I mean, some did, but for the most part, everyone just said, "Oh, okay, fuck you," and just like immediately dumped his shit, stopped carrying his shit.
There was no
and
apologies.
just erased him.
And there was no apologies. That's what I like to see. There was not. Well, I mean, hey, you know, he's entitled to his.
There was some of that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought the overwhelming
mostly
response.
on like the Facebook groups.
Oh, okay.
Like I know I personally got into an argument with a couple people just because I commented it, and then all of a sudden I was like targeted by these people, like, "Whoa, you just don't get it," type of shit, and I'm like, "No, I think I do get it quite clearly."
Unfortunately, I think I do get it.
Yeah, it's really not that complex.
I may not be an edgelord, but I can still understand.
This isn't my first rodeo on the internet. I've been on 4chan since 2004. I know a basement dweller when I see one.
Yeah, exactly.
What a jag-off.
For our listeners who are not from the Pittsburgh area, jag-off is an insult. You can figure out what it's.
It means you're a jag-off.
So there's no real discussion here. It seems like we're all kind of in agreement.
That's true. Yeah, I think we need someone here to bounce these off of, these opinions off of, and so they can tell us their side and what we're not seeing, I guess. But
I will say, I'm probably going to keep that fucking cable holder.
I actually don't have anything to replace that with, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's nothing like that exists. Fuck you for making me keep that thing, you dick.
I wonder if he designed that or if he just like slapped his name on it. Like maybe we could find where he sourced that from.
Could we make some pink ones for Planned Parenthood?
Oh, I'll paint my pink.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
The first SysEx Dumpster product.
Oh.
Maybe we can make some of these things. I'm sure it's not that complicated to like.
Oh.
I think we're onto something.
I love this idea.
Yeah. Pink ones. Yeah, that's it, dude. We got to do
awesome.
that. Every purchase gets a free beer koozie, and we'll send the money to Planned Parenthood.
You honestly wouldn't even need to make it out of metal. You could do it in acrylic if you
could 3D print them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think we're onto something.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, love it. All right, I need another beer. What do you think of the sequence?
It's good. I like it. I haven't had it before.
What is that?
Sequench, which is a
lime
very
juice.
sour, lime juice, black limes,
And sea salt.
sea salt.
That sounds tasty.
It's pretty good. It's very sour.
I think you have to say the whole name to get for it to be the pun.
Sequench ale.
Yeah.
Sequench ale circuits. Electron. We always talk about Electron. Octatrack shipping.
Yeah, it is. It is being shipped. Some people have them in hand.
Screens look pretty.
It looks very nice. Someone even took a picture of, like from a camera angle way down low. You know what I mean? And you could still see the screen, unlike all the Mark 1 screens where you have to be like directly hovering over it, looking straight down. So yeah, the screen looks excellent. The new buttons look useful. It's really tempting to get another Octatrack Mark II now that it has like the new OS and stuff. But
Are the buttons like the keys on the Digitac?
Yeah, they're nice.
the buttons look nice. Yeah, the shortcut keys look nice. Less stuff buried in there. Bring some stuff up to the forefront a bit. You get 3 LFOs per track. You get different effects, different types of reverbs. You get more filters. It's like costs twice the price, but you are getting like more than double the feature set.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. It's a tough one.
I mean, personally, I'm all in on the Digitac.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm also, every day finding new shit to do and to use with it. I don't think I'm going to run out anytime soon with it. The Octatrack's a lot less enticing for me.
Because of the price or just too much stuff?
The price.
Gotcha.
The Digitac is exactly how much I wanted to spend for that functionality.
Yeah, I agree. The price point is what ultimately got me to pull the trigger. I feel like the Digitac was actually, for what you get, it was decently priced for once.
Agreed.
It's a good deal.
I still don't understand the heat, though. I mean, at least with the Octatrack, there's so much shit in it.
Yeah, it's like impossible to find one for under $700 right now for a distortion pedal, essentially.
Yeah.
So those of you who had the Octatrack before, are there new features in it? Stuff that you've been had wanted in the past?
Yeah.
Is it a market improvement over the first one?
It gets there. The buttons on the interface look like they would make it faster to use. I've seen one person comment that had one before. They're like, "Oh, I haven't even gone back to the manual. I haven't had one in a few years because the buttons now, I'm like, oh, here's the feature." The cool thing about the new Electron buttons, of course, is you can do the printing on the button, whereas before they never had anything printed on them. So you could put like a number or whatever it is on there and then have like more information below it printed on the screen or on the panel. But, no new effects. Specs-wise, it's pretty much the same. The new display is good. Balanced inputs and outputs would make it kind of nicer. There were always some level issues I felt with it with recording, and it was kind of tricky to get the levels right in the internal mixer. But I don't know. For a moment, I was like, I kind of want one, but now I'm fully over it. Again, it's like I was using the Digitac a lot on the couch last night, and I was like, no, this is what I want. This does the trick, basically. Even though, to what you say, I want more LFOs and more effects. That's the only thing I feel is limited, is it's not like Digitac isn't great for sound design. Aside from I can pitch something up and down and I can put an effect on it and I can use an LFO to change something, but then you're done.
Right.
So,
Again,
it's a known limit. It's good for drums.
Yeah. I wish there was some rudimentary functions like that in the Digi, but I don't know. I'm a big fan of time stretch as an effect,
Yeah.
And the Octa, I feel like, due to its time stretch abilities, was always a good mangler, especially when you drop loops in there and slices. That was basically all I was using it for when I owned one. Originally I wasn't using it as like a drum machine or even like a sampler. I was dumping loops into it and just mangling shit. You can't really do that with the Digi, unfortunately.
Now, is it the same sort of algorithm? I mean, will it fall apart in the same sort of way if you did the time stretching compared to the Mark 1?
Yeah, I don't think much has changed in that regard. I mean, it's essentially the same OS. I think the OS runs on both devices.
Yeah, it will.
It's like,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
You'll get the trigger conditions on the new one soon. They haven't released it yet, but I know that it looks like they found people are reporting bugs. And before the Octatrack was very stable, there were a few known bugs that were documented that some people ran into that were like, it's not showstopper. And they ran out of space, so they must have found some way to free up some space to add the trigger condition stuff. I don't know, because before they were just like, nope, it's full.
Just
or
optimize the code a bit more or something.
Yeah. Because I know they did that with the Ornament and Crime, where they were like, "Oh, it's out of space, but maybe let's take out. Oh, we had all this USB stuff that only mattered for development. They took it out and freed up a bunch of space, and that's how they started to make some changes again.
Oh, cool.
So maybe they just figured out something they could cut out. I don't know.
Or some library dependency that was just not needed. That type of shit
Exactly.
ends up eating up space. Yeah.
Yep. But it looks beautiful.
It does.
Yeah.
I'm really tempted. I could easily see having a digi and that. You know what I
That'd
mean?
be
Like
amazing.
using the Octa as my looper mangler, you know, fuck shit up box, and keeping my digi as like a drum machine basically,
Yeah.
which is how I've been using it. But
I'd be curious to A/B the sound, just like put the same sample
like
in
the
both of
encoders
them.
itself.
Yeah, the encoders and just like the output. Because I always noticed, like, I was using the rhythm a lot the past few days, and then I was using the Digitac last night, and I hit just one sample, and I'm like, damn, that sounds like really clear and good.
On the digi.
Yeah, the rhythm's always just like kind of muddy.
Absolutely.
Not in a bad way, but it's
I feel like all the Mark 1s have always suffered from that
Yeah.
muddy, thin sound, which is what these Mark 2s are supposed to change to. They said the inputs and outputs have been updated on the Octa. And yeah, if we're using the digi as a, you know, example, if that's what they're going to sound like, then that's good. Because yeah, the digi sounds nice. It really does.
Sort of like the first of the Mark II type of
Right.
thing. Like even though it's a Mark I for the digi, it represents the new standards they're gonna have.
I always thought it was the filters in the Mark 1 Electron stuff. But then I noticed, like, even on the rhythm, if you disable like filtering and stuff, it's still thin.
still
It's
different.
not like the A4 thin,
No,
which everything out of that box sounded.
that was rough.
Yeah, it just sounded like it just lacked depth to the sound. You know what I mean? I guess it's just the encoders or the outputs rather. But
Yeah.
I don't know. But if all the Mark IIs are going to sound like the outputs of the digi, then that's a good improvement over all the Mark 1s. I'm liking the STS, and I have to install the new OS, but at the same time, it's still kind of limited. Like, you can only do 10 samples, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is the 4 millisecond stereo triggered sampler we're talking about. Something we
yes.
talked about before.
Yes.
But very nice module.
Yeah, the new firmware just dropped yesterday. It improves the latency that it was having. It improves some of the features, like being able to save state when you power it down. That was my biggest complaint that I emailed Dan about before that show. I was like, is there any way? I was like, 'cause I'm not finding it in the manual to have this thing remember, you know, my place.
Yeah.
When I shut it down, he was like, no, that's what we're trying to implement in the future, though. And it's in there now, so it's also half the price of a Octatrack.
Yeah.
In comparison, it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
Good point.
it is really sweet to be able to trigger long samples within the modular, though, and record stuff on the fly. It's a tough call. So many sampling options now.
Tons.
You know, like out
There's
of
even
nowhere.
more.
Yeah, this
That
year
this-
it's just blowing up for samplers.
One of the new things on the disting, the Mark IV,
Is it?
is a
Yeah.
sampler. It has a sampler
Oh
for
yeah, you wanted to
audio.
talk about that.
The Mark III had the sampler, but now they've updated it and they have that new screen, which makes it look like way easier to navigate some of that.
See, I didn't even realize the Mark III had a sampler because I looked at the first one and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And it was like 16 algorithms and it was an interesting thing. And I just sort of like never got one, never really paid attention to it. Saw that they made new ones, and then the fourth one like popped up, and I saw they'd added the screen. I'm like, oh, I'm going to give this another. I'm going to look at this again. 76 algorithms, SD slot to load samples and MIDI files.
Yeah, that was nuts.
It looks like they've really gone over the top, and it's only like $10 more than it had been.
Or I think the third one did sample playback, but this one will actually do like stereo recording,
Yeah.
stereo playback, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
for that. Like,
I'm definitely tempted to get it, and even if I don't use the sampler, I'll use one of the 75 other things it does. It looks like it's just crammed as much shit as possible into a tiny 4 HP little monster machine.
I see. I'm kind of the opposite now. I've been getting out of like all-in-one modules. That's why I sold a good chunk of my mutable stuff, because I noticed like I'll just plain forget. You know what I mean? Everything that it can do.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll only use it for like one function, generally.
Well, that's my problem with the Ornament and Crime.
Yeah.
Is I can only have one program loaded,
Yeah.
and the
Sure.
whole time I'm like, well, I like all of them.
Exactly.
Everything on here
so
is
then you
super
have to
useful.
get multiple, and if you're getting multiples at that point, it's like you might as well just buy a couple
like actual
single,
utility.
one trick pony modules that do this and do it very well. That's why I got rid of peaks, because I kept forgetting all the other modes, or I was just using it for an LFO, or I was just using it for a VCA, and then I'd want to use both or something, and I'm just like, okay, well, then why do I have this module? I could just get a tiny VCA and a tiny LFO, and I don't have to mess around with different modes and remembering what knob does what.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't mind the modes thing because I also got the Pico DSP, but it's only 8.
Right.
It's very bright colors. They, for some reason in my mind, they make sense. Like red for Bit Crusher.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I figured you'd dig that, man.
And it sounds.
That's why I recommended it to you. Like I was like, Dave would be on to this, but
it's amazing.
I didn't know you actually got one. I remember recommending it, but.
Thank you for the recommendation because I didn't really give it much of a shot, and it sounds great.
Yeah, I bought one before that show because I was like, I need another reverb. I mean, I have a shit ton of reverbs, but I couldn't fit any more in my live rig. I needed something small, and I was looking at that. I was like, this thing's only 3 HP, and it has a couple different reverb modes. I was like, I'm sure it doesn't sound amazing, but it'll probably do what I want for live. And I got one, and I immediately purchased a second one. I was like, "This is great. It's a hell of a module."
It's stereo out too.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Only mono in, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
You get 8 algorithms.
Yep. A lot of them are different delays. Like you got your ping pong delay or whatever, your time sync delay, your granular delay. There's 2 reverb modes. One is like a distorted delay, and the other is just like your typical like hall delay with like a filter on it. And then there's like Bit Crusher, and there was like a phaser. Well, actually, it's more than a bit crush. It's also like an amp distortion too. It has like 2 different ways depending on which knob you turn. Like one knob is just like amp distortion, and then the second knob is like a sample rate bit crush.
That's cool.
Yeah, for 3 HP, it's pretty awesome.
It's a lot of power.
Speaking of peaks, though, that and braids and clouds are all dead.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Defunct. Yeah.
So braids and clouds are the only mutables I own aside from ears. So it's kind of weird that they're dead. Because clouds I love. The very complexity that he dislikes is something I like. I think we've talked about that before. But
the only reason that I pulled the trigger on clouds initially was because it did more than just the main mode, which really wasn't all that appealing to me. But all the other modes combined, I was like, yeah, I could definitely see me using this thing, and I did. I used all the modes fairly often, especially live. Like I loved using the looping delay live. That was like a fun one. But yeah, it's weird to see that he's like, I don't know, not feeling that module anymore.
I think you mentioned before, I hope he's just like getting ready to drop the new hotness.
Yeah. He's doing like a out with the old, in with the new type of thing. I hope. You know what I mean?
And not that he's just burnt out.
Yeah. I mean, he announced something called marbles, but he didn't say what the hell it is.
It's literally just a bag of marbles.
Yeah.
I'm done. Fuck you.
Bag of marbles with a contact mic.
I'd probably buy it.
So I don't know if that's going to be like the clouds replacement or if it's something new entirely, but curious to see what he's going to come up with.
I'm like you, I wouldn't have bought it without parasites.
Yeah.
That was what tipped me over to like, oh, it's got a ton of stuff in here.
Yeah.
I use it all. So
I tried that. What was it? Camerol beat
never
repeat
tried
one.
that one.
Eventually ended up back on the factory mode for a minute, but
I still have the one that you loaded on it, which is like Parasites 1.2. There are just certain like sounds I'm kind of afraid to lose on it. Speaking of which, the Rainmaker had a pretty significant update that was in beta for a while. They found some issues that do with the sync, which I didn't try. It seems to sync very well now. I did upgrade mine. Sounds completely different.
Yeah.
Couldn't be too much more different. Way cleaner. It almost sounds like it was broken before, even though there are certain things about the way it was before that I kind of miss.
sure.
One of the new features is auto gain compensation, so you can't go too crazy with the feedback. You can push it really far and it'll kind of not explode through the range. It's kind of controlled, but that was some of the very stuff that I thought was very interesting.
I was just going to say, does it sound good though?
It's hard to say because I don't have two to like A/B it. I didn't bring mine over today because it's kind of all patched up with a bunch of stuff, but I like it, but it's like my memory of what it used to be like kind of recedes the more I use it too.
Sure.
So I'm not mad at it right now, but I know it sounds different. And I like some of the clean stuff I've been getting out of it, but
I don't think I'm going to update mine.
yeah, I wouldn't.
I rely on the nastiness of it too much. I mean, sometimes, yeah, it is too nasty. You know what I mean? Like, I can definitely push it into territory where it's unusable.
And you have no
even
bugs.
for noisy stuff. No, not that I've
So you don't need it for
counted,
that bug
no.
fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it can get off the rails pretty quickly.
It added some stuff like you can randomize the randomizations right now, which is like, that's cool, but random kind of does the trick for me anyway. You know, I don't need to randomize how it's randomizing it so much.
But then you're going to want to randomize that. So randomize
Yes.
the randomize of your
Let's
randomize.
go deeper.
I forget what else they added.
Rainception.
Oh, they fixed
Boo.
there were some things in the delay that weren't like, some of the delay lines had some glitches or something that not correct technically, but maybe was some of the very stuff that was influencing its older sound. But the shame is you can't there's no download for the old firmware,
Oh.
Ooh.
so I think you're
Okay.
kinda stuck.
Thanks for the
You know?
heads up.
Yeah. I'm sure he would give it up
Because I was even
People
thinking that.
requested it.
Yeah, I was even thinking. I was like, well, maybe I could just try the new firmware, and if I don't like it, I'll just downgrade.
So there's
but-
not like a GitHub for it or anything like that?
I don't think they're on GitHub. It's on his site, but there's no versioning. It's just like, here's the new firmware, because before there wasn't a firmware update, and it was just the stock one. I use a Mac at home, so I had to set up a Windows VM and then download the programming software from the FPGA company, which wasn't too hard. Like, he has a video that walks you through it, pretty straightforward. So
Oh,
it
that's
didn't
cool.
take too long to update, but
Is it the same as like the Metropolis updater and all that shit?
I
That
think
little
so.
USB thing you stick on the back. And
yeah, well, this
Okay.
one, it was just a micro USB for the display and then a mini USB for the FPGA in the back of it, because you have to update the display too.
That's the nice thing about the Warp's Parasite. They kept the original factory on the end of the dial. So you could call up all
That's
of those
cool.
back. You
Nice.
didn't have to sacrifice it. And I thought that was a cool idea.
yeah,
Still kind of want one of those.
I fucking love it. And yeah, and then with Parasites, you get that the original firmware, and then all the crazy shit he added. So there's no sacrifice.
All right, that's cool.
Mutable dude, Olivier, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he even said that like Warps is one of the ones that he's actually really happy with currently, and that he isn't killing or changing.
Oh, that's
anytime
awesome.
Soon.
Yeah, it's because it's a great module.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. I still can't believe you got rid of that defibrillator.
I only had the two cases, you know?
Yeah.
Now that Mantis is in the picture and taking some of the utility modules out of the other two rigs, and the fact that Mantis exists and I could get another one and fit it in,
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
definitely miss my defib.
I kind of have I saw someone made mention of a request for the 352, and I kind of want it now too. I want to be able to turn the coarse knob off, so that even if I move it, it doesn't change the pitch, and that it will just have the pitch from the 1 volt per octave input.
Could you just turn course all the way down?
I mean, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, you could do that and then just adjust all your input voltages
Yeah.
that way. Like, I kind of keep it in the middle or all the way down or something like that. But I would still like it so that I still bump into it when I'm like
Yeah.
using it live, and I was like, fuck, because it it changes the melody, and you got to find like where you were at, and sometimes
Sure.
if you're not at an extreme,
Right.
it sucks. So it would be cool if he would put like a just disable knob, just
Yeah,
just
yeah.
take it from the CV input. But literally my only request or complaint for that module.
Yeah, I still haven't updated mine, but I need to. But yeah, I dig that thing. Man, why you gotta bring up defibrillator? Now I'm thinking about it again. I'm like, oh, I'd love to run that 352 through that thing.
Yep.
That was a hell of a filter.
Yeah, it was.
That was
just,
amazing.
It was just gigantic, dude.
Yeah.
That's why I never got one. But every time I would come over and hear you use it, I'd be like, God damn, this is good. That's
Yeah.
like the best MS-20 clone I've ever heard.
I agree.
Kicks
And I've tried a few
ass.
of them, yeah. And that one was just like, oh, this is what I've been looking for, you know? God damn it. I'm sorry. I think those are hard to come by now, too.
I was gonna ask you, like, what are
Like,
they
you
going
never
for?
see them used. They're just, like, non-existent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought that when I was up in Toronto from Moog Music. He only had one. He had to give me the display module.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. He had all the AS stuff up there, man. All of it. And I got to play with it, and I was just like having a blast, dude. I was like, oh, I love all this shit. I'll never buy it, but I love it. And that's the first time I ever got to play with all that stuff in person. You know, like he had everything on the floor from them. And I was like, that's fucking cool, because it's like even had the little shit, I can't remember what it's called now. The guy with the dot matrix.
Oh, the Russian style one. Vostok?
Oh,
Vostok,
yeah.
yes. You had that. They had the telemark. You had like all that stuff. I was like, oh man.
You had 2 of their modules, right? What was the other one?
I tried the VCO, but it was kind of lackluster in my opinion. It had a very, very limited frequency range.
And that was big too, right?
Yeah, that was another
Same
monster.
size.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a bass oscillator. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, but I think it had saw in the name.
Yeah, I think you're right. Dual saw.
Yep, there we go.
That's it.
I think I paid $340 Canadian when I bought it.
Which is $10.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of missed that thing now. It was good for like feedback and shit. But the thing that gave it most character was like the distortion and shit.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But I got enough shit for that now. So speaking of filters, though, did you see that? What is it? The J80 or what the hell was it called?
Oh, what is
Fuck.
it? The Jove.
The Jove. Yeah.
System 80 is that?
No, I haven't seen this. What?
It's a Jupiter 6 clone using not rare parts.
Who's making it? Is it a kit?
System 80, the same people that make, they have that like
System 80
808
Jove.
in Eurorack. It's
Yeah.
like really beautiful and has like step buttons you can actually put human fingers on. But yeah, that module's tempting because I sold my AM Synths Jupiter 6 VCF clone to Russ one day.
Oh, and then there's gonna be the Chris Carter filters here pretty soon from FSS. I can't imagine going more than a day without just caving and getting.
Yeah,
At least the
I figured you were
filter.
gonna grab that stuff right off
Yeah.
the bat. The VCA looked kind of nice too. It sounded good. But
Because the only other thing I have of his is the Spectral Devastator, which I really love.
Right.
But
you got like 2 of them, don't you?
no, I just have one.
Okay.
It's a dual though.
Oh yeah,
it is
it's
a dual. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
When do they come out?
It's supposed to be soon.
Get it, Dave. Get them all.
They're not outrageously expensive, but to get all of them is pushing like $1,000, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But that's also a full system.
it's a full
point,
voice,
you know?
everything. Yeah.
Which ain't bad for $1,000, and
No.
it's got character. So.
Yeah.
They ship November 1st. There's a TG2 generator, which looks like a VCO, TG3 filter, TG4 modulator, TG5 preamplifier. 200 pounds, 150 pounds for 2 of them, and then 250 for the preamp.
And those are pounds. Or was it pounds or euros?
Pounds.
So that's going to be a lot more than that in US bucks. Actually, I have no idea what the conversion rate at this point is.
Right now. Well, 200 pounds is $262 US right now.
Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, the whole thing pushes 1,000. Or
Yeah, which isn't.
no, not bad at all. Wait, yeah, we had a list.
Fluxus One.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that a little.
So wait, just to reiterate, both of you have a Fluxus One.
Technically.
Technically, yes. We both purchased one. Nick does not have one at the moment.
I just shipped mine back.
Gotcha, that's
for
right.
repairs.
Yeah, his broke day one,
Yeah.
which is kind of unfortunate.
I will say I was using it for like 2 hours and I was like, cool. I was getting the hang of it. There are still some features that aren't implemented yet. And I looked up and like half the LEDs weren't lit. And I was like, oh, I just thought I was in a weird mode or something. Like I'm just still learning this. It's pretty
AKA being drunk.
complicated. Yeah, AKA being drunk. And I start to realize like I switched the modular off a few times. And I'm like, no, these just aren't lighting up. When you go into the one, I think it's the pattern mode or something, like they all strobe in colors. But I realized even that wasn't triggering them. And then I emailed him. I'm like, hey, running into this issue. And he's like, oh yeah, it's just one of these must have slipped through.
Oh, okay. So it was a hardware defect
Yeah.
that, and you're getting a replacement.
Yeah, it seemed like it was their main defect, basically, that they were gated by shipping from. It was like the kind of broken LEDs during the manufacturing process. So I'm not getting a replacement. They're apparently out of replacements, but he's like, oh, I'll just fix yours and ship it back to you.
So it's a bummer, but in no way a slight on him and what he's doing.
Yeah, and when I was starting to use it and get the hang of it, I was like, cool, I really like using this. It's pretty straightforward to put melodies in. Like, there's some odd things, like like Greg and I were talking about earlier, like using the encoder to do things, it would be easier if there were just kind of D-pad buttons.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It'd be a little more straightforward.
Like immediately after like playing with it for an hour, I was like, I'm starting to hate this encoder. Like, 'cause to navigate through anything, you have to push the encoder in, then scroll to the thing you want to change, depress it, then scroll to change it.
Yeah.
So like,
That's intense.
and there's a lot of stuff in there, and I'm like, I kept like accidentally scrolling to the wrong thing or forgetting to push it, and then I'd scroll on the the thing that I didn't want to change, and I was like, this is, after an hour, this is already pissing me off, and I was just thinking to myself, like, how could this be better? And like in my head, like 4 directional arrows, or even just an up down and like an enter in the middle or something would be so much easier. Like I don't know if there's a way maybe they can encode it, because there is like a page up, page down. I don't know if there's a way like maybe in the code he could change it so that you could ignore the encoder and maybe just use that to navigate, and then maybe just push the encoder as enter.
It seems like a baffling sort of like design choice when everything else is just like out there, laid out, pretty straightforward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like when you ignore the encoder, the rest of the interface is amazing. I love the feel of the buttons. I love the way everything's laid out.
Agreed.
I love how the menu system isn't too deep. But then you get to that encoder, and it's just like it like contradicts all of that like good workflow. It's like grinding against the rest of that, and I'm hopeful that maybe he can get code a different way to navigate it.
Like an alternate firmware for people who like you who don't want
Well,
to
not
do
even
that.
like alternate, but just add like the functions in there. Like hold this and press this to move up and down the menu system instead of needing to touch the encoder at all.
Yeah. And you don't think you're going to warm up to it?
There's more stuff getting added to it, which means you're going to have to be bouncing around using that encoder even more so, in the near future. But that was my only overall complaint with my time with it. I haven't had a chance to dive too deeply into it. I mainly was just using it to do some basic sequences and some ARP stuff. The Arp Engine, I think, is fantastic.
Agreed. Yeah, that was really cool.
So what does it offer? What's its
Art per step.
Yeah.
So like each step can have.
So how does that work?
Arpeggio.
So like in one 16-step sequence, you can have 16 different arpeggiations. Like if you really wanted to make some complex, like I was making with my SID guts, I was programming like a lot of weird like trilly, C64 ARP sequences with it.
So I mean, how do you give it? Do you give it like a chord? Do you give it a direction? Like what is your
Both,
actual option?
Yeah, all of that
per step.
per step.
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah. You start with step 1 and you tell it like, direction, chord, all this shit, and you tell it how long you want it to be held for. So like if you just want that to be 4 steps, you set that to 4.0, you know what I mean? And then you go to step 5 and you do like a 2-step ARP, and so then you'll go to step 6 and do like another one.
Oh,
you know
nice.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so it's not like
You don't have to do it per step, no. You give each step its length, you know what I mean? And then you have to like...
Oh, wow, that sounds awesome.
It is. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. I mean, that was the main reason that I was interested in this in the first place. I was like, that is a great feature, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And also, the modulations.
Yeah, that's a huge feature.
That was the thing I loved the most about my Sequencer 1, was that I could create a more complex sequence by using the LFOs out and routing them back into itself. This can do the same type of thing, but currently the LFOs aren't synchronized, which to me is kind of a major downer.
Do you have a reset though? I mean, even if they're not synchronized, can you at least do a hard reset?
Yeah, I don't think you can at the moment. So it's kind of like freeform, jazzy,
Yeah.
Which isn't me. I like being precise and synchronizing everything locked to the clock. You know what I mean?
Synced LFOs.
Yeah. So he said that's going to come in the future. Also, it was kind of a bummer that none of the features on the front panel work currently.
Like everything in gold on there.
Yeah.
Except for muting the CV and the gate, which are the top 2. Everything else that's in gold doesn't work yet. So you'll slam the shift and hit that and be like, it's not doing anything.
Yeah, and I had no idea of this.
Yeah.
So I spent like at least a good 45 minutes trying to figure out what the hell I was doing wrong.
Right.
You weren't holding it hard enough.
Yeah, I'm like, am I missing a key combo? Is there an option in the menu? I went through like every option. I was just like, nope. And then Nick told me, he's like, yeah, none of the gold tech stuff works yet. I was like, what? It's like, okay. So yeah, it's kind of half baked right now.
What's the roadmap? I mean, is he going to be having new stuff out in weeks? Or
I thought it was going to be out before it shipped.
Yeah.
I thought so too.
I think that's what he said originally, so I have no idea at this point. But I hope it's soon.
Hopefully it doesn't drag on.
Because it sucks to like stare at this panel and say, "Oh yeah, this thing is gonna do this," but
Just you wait.
right now it doesn't. Yeah, it's like it's kind of just like a tease. But so far, just as a basic sequencer and Arp Engine, loving it. But yeah, can't wait to see when it reaches its final form.
Yeah.
Reaches power level over 9,000.
It becomes Charizard. Again, going back to Pokemon.
But I like the basics of it. That's why even when I got it and a couple of hours later it wasn't working, it was like, all right, A, I don't really have time to like learn a new sequencer right now. I'm trying to make a bunch of stuff and this will distract me for weeks. And B, it was like the basic stuff was really straightforward and quick to get sequences going. So that's what I wanted it for.
Right.
I love the colors too.
Mm-hmm.
The screen, the colors, the buttons, very nice. Yeah.
Even as someone who like just hates colorful things and anything that isn't just gray or black, even I was like warmed over by it.
It just looks like something you use to pilot like an alien craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's so compact too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
for a
super
sequencer, people tend to make, these big fucking modules for sequencers, but this thing, it's got it all and it's compact as hell. It's
And
like
the jack layout looks sensible. Like it doesn't look too cramped. I mean, you're probably not going to have a ton of stack cables in
4
it.
channels and ins and outs, and
Yeah,
it's all there in that little package. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and it's well made too. When I got it, I'm like, all right, he put a lot of detail into the mechanical construction of it. It doesn't feel like a shitty, like it was put together poorly. Granted, I had some LED defects, but that's manufacturing problems.
Again, though, I do want to complain about the encoder. Like, not just the use of it, but the feel of it.
Yeah.
The encoder to me feels cheap compared to everything else. Like the button on it and just like the movement of it. Like in comparison, like the 352, the encoder on that thing feels rock solid.
Yeah.
It's a nice knob. That feels like a nice encoder. The Fluxus one just feels like I could snap that encoder off.
I agree with that.
I like the thumb indent on the 352 also.
I love that too.
Yeah, I feel like...
What is it? What are you talking about?
Feel it, dude.
All right, I'm
Come
going to
here.
go feel this.
It's got a thumb groove on the encoder. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Wait here. Wait, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's nice, dude.
That is nice. Like, it's right there.
Now feel the Fluxus encoder.
Oh, God. Yeah, no. I don't want to that. I've never felt something that crappy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's surprisingly flimsy.
What are you doing with my curtains? Why are they taped to the walls? Making another video, Mom. Leave me alone.